The first thing they noticed were the tattoos. Ink crawled down her arms like old maps, faded coordinates, symbols most of them didn't recognize, lines that looked less like art and more like history burned into skin. When she took the last empty stool in the community art class, conversation dipped, then rose again in whispers. Art class, huh, someone muttered, loud enough to be heard. A few snickers followed. She didn't react, she simply set her worn sketchbook on the table, rolled up her sleeves without self-consciousness, and studied the blank page as if it were an old friend. Her name on the sign-up sheet said, Mara Vale. No title, no explanation, just a woman in her mid-30s, hair pulled back tight, posture too straight for a casual evening class. The instructor, a soft-spoken man named Elliot, welcomed everyone and began talking about drawing emotion through hands. Hands tell stories, he said. They show where we've been. Mara glanced at her own hands for half a second, scarred knuckles, faint white lines across her palms, then picked up her pencil. The others were a mixed group. College kids killing time, a retired couple, two guys who thought this class would be an easy way to meet women. Those two were the loudest. They leaned back in their chairs, eyeing Mara openly. One of them nudged the other and nodded at her arms. Bet she's got a wild story, he whispered, grinning. Or maybe just trying too hard. The other laughed. Yeah, art class hero. Mara heard it, she always did. Years of training had sharpened her hearing, but more than that, years of being underestimated had taught her when silence was the smarter move. She focused on the assignment. Her pencil moved with calm precision, lines confident, deliberate. She wasn't drawing her own hands. She was drawing someone else's, small, trembling hands wrapped around hers in the dark, a moment frozen in graphite that no one else in the room could see. As the class worked, Elliot walked around offering gentle feedback. When he reached Mara, he paused longer than usual. That's powerful, he said quietly. There's tension here, protection. Mara nodded once. It was, she replied, and went back to shading. Elliot moved on, puzzled but impressed. During the break, the room loosened. People stood, stretched, grabbed coffee from the corner. The two guys approached Mara's table, emboldened by their own laughter. So, one said, leaning on the edge of her desk without asking. Didn't expect to see someone like you here. What's with the tattoos? The other crossed his arms, smirking. Yeah, what are you, some kind of biker artist? Mara looked up slowly. Her eyes were steady, unreadable. They remind me where I've been, she said. Nothing more. They laughed again. Mysterious, one said. Relax, we're just joking. He pointed at one symbol etched near her wrist. What's that one mean? She covered it with her sleeve. It means stop, she said, not raising her voice. Something in her tone made them hesitate, but pride pushed them forward. Come on, the other said. You act like you've seen war or something. For the first time, a flicker crossed her face, not anger, but something heavier. Memory. She stood, taller than either of them realized she was, and gathered her sketchbook. I have, she said. Then she walked away, leaving them blinking after her. When class resumed, Elliot announced a change. Next week, we're doing portrait studies, he said. And I've invited a guest speaker, someone who uses art to process intense life experiences. She's agreed to share her story. He smiled toward Mara. If that's still okay. A ripple went through the room. Mara hesitated, then nodded. It's okay. The week passed, but the tension lingered. Some students avoided her, others watched her more closely now, curiosity replacing mockery. On the night of the talk, the room was fuller than usual. People from other classes had drifted in. Elliot introduced her simply. Mara Vale, artist, veteran. She stood at the front, hands relaxed at her sides. No uniform, no medals, just ink and scars and a voice that didn't shake. I joined the Navy at 18, she began. I didn't plan on becoming a SEAL. I planned on quitting. A lot. A soft laugh moved through the room. But I stayed, and I learned. She spoke of training without glamour, cold, exhaustion, doubt. Of being the only woman in rooms where she wasn't wanted. Of earning respect not through shouting, but through surviving. The room grew quiet as she talked about deployments, about teammates who became family, about moments when seconds meant lives. She didn't boast. She didn't dramatize. She told it plainly, and that made it heavier. Then she opened her sketchbook. Page after page revealed drawings unlike anything the class had seen. Not battle scenes, but aftermaths. A helmet resting beside a bed in a field hospital. A pair of boots left by a door that would never open again. Hands, Always hands, reaching, holding, letting go. I couldn't talk about it when I came home, she said. So I drew. Art kept me human when everything else was about being a weapon. The two guys sat frozen in their chairs. One had gone pale. The other stared at the floor. Around them, no one breathed. When I left the teams, Mara continued, I didn't know who I was without the mission. I walked into this art class because I needed to learn how to be still. To be normal. She met their eyes, one by one. You never know what someone has survived just to sit quietly next to you. Silence held the room long after she finished. Then Elliot spoke, voice thick. Thank you. Afterward, people approached her differently. Softer. With respect. Some shared their own losses. Others simply said thank you and moved on. The two guys lingered until the room had almost emptied. Finally, one stepped forward. We were out of line, he said. I'm sorry. Mara studied him for a moment, then nodded. Apology accepted, she said. Learn from it. In the weeks that followed, the class changed. The laughter was kinder. The critiques more thoughtful. Mara kept coming, kept drawing. She wasn't a legend to them anymore, not in the distant sense. She was a reminder that strength doesn't always announce itself. That heroes don't always look the way you expect. And that sometimes, the bravest thing a warrior can do is sit in a quiet room, pencil in hand, and choose to create instead of destroy. On the last night of the course, Elliot asked everyone to display one final piece. Mara's was simple. A pair of hands, older now, resting on a table, relaxed at last. Beneath it, in small letters, she had written, still here. The room stood and applauded, not for a seal, not for a legend, but for a woman who had survived, softened, and found her way back to herself. And as the applause faded, one truth remained, clear and strong: never judge the silence of a person who has learned what noise can cost.